Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today we're going to masech this Bava Daf Chav Ches. We're going to begin on Chav Ches about Aleph, the fifth line from the top, Toshama. So we were discussing what is the din, whether a person is Ovid Inish Din Nafshe. Can a person like be a vigilante? So we said, B'makam Seda, if there's a loss, then everyone holds that Ovid Inish Din Nafshe. The Machlokes between the shittas of Rabbi Yehuda and Rav Nachman is in a situation where b'makam the lake pseida, if there is no loss. Okay, so the Gemara is going to continue trying to bring rayas. Tashma, shor she'ol al gabi chaveroi l'hargoi. So you have an ox that it goes on top of its chaveroi, and its intention is to kill. And the owner of the animal below it comes because it was about to get killed, so he's trying to protect his animal. The Shomet is Shalom. He pulls out his own animal, basically to save its life. But Naf Elyanu Mace Potter. Because of that, it causes the animal on the top to fall. The animal that was going to kill, it fell and it died. So now the Baal Hatachtoin, the owner of the animal on the bottom, is Potter. Maila B'muad. Now let's assume that the animal that's on the top is a muad, is a wild animal. The lake of Seda, that there would be no loss. In other words, if he would have had his animal killed, he could have brought them to Beis Din. The answer is low, but Tom. We're talking about a case of a Tom. In that situation, if he would go to Beis Din, he would only get half the damages for his animal that was damaged, let's say, and not full damages. And therefore, that's a case of it would be a loss if you would have taken him to court. Everyone agrees to that. So let's say he actually pushed the top one off. He didn't remove his animal. He pushed the aggressive animal, umes, and it died. If this animal on the top, if we were talking about it's a tom, so then, why would he be chayim? Says Rashi, if it would have gone to Beis Din, the hachi mayis delay el. So there should only be chati nezek. So shahayelo l'shamtoi v'loy shamto. It's because he should have pulled out his animal from below and he didn't, and therefore because of that he's held accountable. Okay, Tashma. A person filled up a chatzar filled with jugs of wine and oil. Baal hachatzar mishaber v'yotze mishaber v'nichnas. So if you own this chatzar, you have no way of getting in and out. So you can go and in and out, even though that will constitute you breaking the kalim. So therefore, it obviously shows that you can put the law in your own hands, if you will. So Rav Nachman Yitzchak, it actually means that you should take him to Beis Din, and you should bring out your sechusim. Says Rashi Kagoin, im hayazet ta'anusha chatzah shalo. If he says this is his courtyard, v'sarach zel havi shtar mechira shekana. And he would have to prove that, in fact, this is the case, that he was the owner of this courtyard. Tashma. Minayin l'nirtza shekol yomov. How do we know when it comes to a din of a nirtza? So the din is an Evan Ivri, works only shanim, as we saw on Daf Yodalad and Kedushin. He only works for 6 years, then he goes free. Unless he wants to stay, he becomes a nirtza until yovel. Now let's say his years are finished. Varabo misarhev bo lotzes, and his masters resisted in his leaving, even though it's already reached, as Rashi says, shegia yovel. v'chavel, and he hits him, v'asabo chabura, and he causes a chabura, shehu potter. Then in that situation, he's potter. Basically, what's happening over here, he's supposed to leave, and the master's like pushing him to go. Talmud Lamer lo sichu kaifer lashuv. That you shouldn't take kaifer to return. Lo sichu kaifer lashav. Says Rashi, the drasha is l'misha writes lashuv l'kilkulo v'yois eved. This is referring to someone who wants to remain an eved. So in that situation, you don't pay kaifer because you're not an eved. Get out, and he refuses. Lishnachrina shav el mishpachta v'in. Go back to your family. He doesn't want to. So for some reason, he doesn't want to leave the situation. Probably because he's become like institutionalized, which we find sometimes a person in jail too long. You have all their needs cared for them. So this is the din as well, and therefore he's potter. So we see that you are allowed to take the court and take into your own hands. We're talking about an eved who also happens to be a crook, and therefore there's a pseida, there's a loss keeping him around. So add it in the logana of a hashtagana. So understand, until now he wasn't the ganav, and all of a sudden he becomes a ganav. No, add it in the havi a masi de Rabbi alei. He, at least when he was a servant, he had some fear of his master. Bahashta, now that Yovel's gone, he's no longer an eved, technically. Lately, masa de Rabbi alei. He no longer has the fear of his master upon him, and therefore he's more likely to steal, and therefore it's b'makom seda. That's why you're allowed to do this. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Omer be'eved shemasa lo yirah b'shivcha kananis. We're talking about a situation where the eved Ivri was given a shivcha kananis. So ad in the hater v'hashti yisura. Until now, she's mutter to him, but now that he's free, because he's been chayrin, he's aser, says Rashi. V'rashai l'hal koisai. You're allowed to hit him. L'afrisho the haidina lav l'nafshehu. Because this is not him. He's causing issues with this shivcha kanainis, because he has no rights to be with her anymore. Question 6. Yosichel kaifer lashuv. Oman hitter kra lahal kaisai who potter al chelvasai maduo. Why are you potter? This master hitting him. So we're talking about a nirtza sheina ratzalatze. He doesn't want to leave, and he's a ganev, and there's a pseida. And because now that he's free, technically, he no longer has any fear. Mishum de avid inish din lanashe, or be'evid shemasalo rabbi shivcha kananis v'kol yomov. He's finished up his service. He doesn't want to leave. To rishayil hal kaiso la frushim isura. You're allowed to hit him because you're separating him from Isser, because you're saying you're not allowed to be with her anymore. Fine. So that is the way to answer those questions. Question, maybe the same question. TA 16. Menayin l'nirtzav v'rav mitzar hebo latzis v'chavav yasub v'chabura potter madiyam v'lo aved inishtin l'nashe madua potter. This is TA 16, and it's probably going to be just identical, but let's just see how he writes it. Ob av de ganava, again he's either a ganav, v'ikapseda, or eved sharab muscle shem kananis tefrishim isura. So that's the reason why it's allowed in this case. Okay. Okay. Weiter. Toshma. This sounds familiar. It's their pair. So a person leaves a kad, a chavius, some kli in the Rosh Hashanah, and someone is walking the Rosh Hashanah. We discuss why it's not fault, it was at night, it was Karen Zavias in the corner. Okay, different answers. and he trips over it, the shavar, and he breaks it, potter. Now, time is in iskaba. That's only because it was an accident. Hashavar, if he deliberately broke it, chayev. So we see he's not allowed to put the law in his own hands. So Rav Zvin, Mishmei Rabba, who identified feel shavar. No, even if he broke it deliberately, he would still be potter. V'hadid tiny niskal. Why does it say it broke? He tripped over it. I didn't come with a misty safe. We had this already. Im huzuk, that if he was damaged by a balabayas chayev beniskal, he has to pay damages. The dafka niskal, only if it was an accident that he got injured. Avol shavar, if he broke it low. The who azik nafshi, because he injured himself. Therefore, katani reisha niskal. Fine. Tashma, the katzaitzas kappa. Well, it says literally that will cut off her hand. This is referring to a woman who sees two people fighting, and she intervenes, and she ends up injuring someone. So we say v'kata says kappa. That doesn't mean we actually physically will do that, but mamlin. It just means we cause her a monetary loss. So my law, that she really had no choice. This was the only way that she could have possibly stopped them from fighting, and therefore she was doing this herself. And therefore, we should learn out from here, as Rashi says, "Well, alma loy abed inish dil anashe, afil b'makom seida, ki hacha shabala muka kol shah." Her husband's getting beaten up, and she's like, "No, there's no other alternative. I can't call the police. There's no one around." Nonetheless, she's still held accountable. So we see this as a raya that even b'makom seida, actually, which we thought everyone agreed, that in this situation she would be potter, but over here, no, that doesn't say that. There's a chiyuv mamon. So my love, no, she wished to save her husband from this person, but she didn't have to do it this way, and therefore she didn't do properly, because she could have done something else. Which is mashma. If, let's say, she had no other alternative, then she would be potter because of it inish din l'nafshe ihachi at a tiny seifa. So why does it say a totally separate case? The shalchi yal the prat l'shliach beistin, that a beistin does it. So live listen b'didah. Talk about her herself. That's what she's chayav. So why do you mention when you potter? It's alidei beistin. Why do you have to say prat l'shliach beistin that they'll be potter? Why would you say that? Just say if she had no other alternative. Must be that there's no difference. So you're right. You're right. It's the exact same thing. Her hand is not like shliach beistin because she had no other alternative, and therefore she's potter because of an injninu nafshe. Tashma. Harisha derech harabim oiveres b'sech sedahu. Let's say you have a pathway, and it just happens to be going through your field. Not of a nasan lehem minatzad, and what you do is you move it to the side. Mash nasan nasan. So if you made a new path, hoping that people will start going like on the side, not in the middle of your field. Okay, it was a good path. However, the old path is not finished. In other words, it's almost like a tamura, that you can make another animal tamura, but the first animal's kedusha remains. So the path stays, but you just created a new problem for yourself. Now, if in fact a person could just simply take the law in his own hands, so linkoit pazra l'esav, let him stay there with a stick, like a guard, on that path which is disruptive in his field, and sit there and don't let anyone pass. Must be that's not an option. The problem is that he really technically should be allowed, but he may end up doing it, creating this other path, which he did create, may not necessarily be as good. He may have created it in a way which is much longer and more difficult to be able to traverse through this person's field to get from point A to point B. Maybe. And then Rav Misharshi he says, no, that's what he did. He did it. That was the problem in that case. If he didn't, maybe it wouldn't be a problem. And here's a beautiful shot. Rav Ashi no, kol min hatzad derech akolosinhu, k'roiv lozeh or chayk lozeh. It's true if you have a path in the middle and then instead you shift it to the left, so that may be better for the people who need to get to this side, but the people who want to get to the other side, the middle path would have been much better. So therefore, when you change it in any direction, you're always going to make it worse for someone. And therefore, since it's worse for someone in the Rabbim, therefore, it doesn't stand. So if that's the situation, why do we say the original path stays? Look in Taisus. V'lo garsinan amai shelo lo hagiyu. We're not garis amai shelo lo hagiyu. Okay, we're not. According to Taisus, you don't even say this line. Okay, leimalu. Why don't we just say shakul didchu v'havuli didi? Why don't we say take yours and give us mine? Mishum Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda. Meitzar shechzika b'rabim also kalkoloi. Once you already have a meitzar, which has been established with the rabbim, you can no longer do anything to destroy it. It has to remain the way it is. Tashma. Baal habayis sheheniach peya. You have a baal habayis who left peya for the poor, misad echad on one side, v'aniyim v'natum misad acher, but the Benim went to the other side of your field and took. Zev is peya. We say that both of them are considered to be peya. That's the din. The efshir the amrit. Okay. The amrit of it in din l'nafshe. There's no rush in the tears. That's what it is. The amrit. If you want to tell me of it in din l'nafshe, my zev is peya. Why are both corners peya? Win coin. Pazra v'leisiv. Again, sit there with this security guard with a stick. So Amarava, my zev is peya. What does it mean that both sides are peya? But paiter min a meiser. It just means you're pater from meiser. Says Rashi, the af peya hanisheres, even the peya that's left over, chashiva, the afagav the naked la'ihu, even though he's the one that's going to end up taking it for himself, patur min meiser. Kedisanya hamafkeres karmoi. What is your mafker, your vineyard? V'hishkim, a boy get up in the morning of Batzor, and you start harvesting chayim bepared v'olis v'shichlu v'peya upatim in a meiser. So therefore, if the aniyim took from one side, so the din is that then the din is that even though no one else is going to come for that other corner because the aniyim already came for peya, you're patim from meiser on that side. Okay, so it ends up you end up gaining in the situation. And that's the end of that sugya, so we don't really have a maskana regarding this. Let's look at question 7. Nishbar kadaber shusarabim. A person's kad broke. V'huchuk echad mehen. Okay, we didn't do this yet, so I'm not going to go back there. Let's see. Yeah. Good. All right, let's see the next Mishnah. This is what it's really talking about over here. Okay. Says the Masnis. Nishbar kad b'shusarabim. So a person's kad broke. Not that you just left it there, but it was broken. V'hochok echem b'mayim. And let's say someone is walking by and they slip on the contents that spilled out or broke, and then there was liquid all over the place. They slipped on water. Oshalaka b'charsis. They got injured by the shards of the kli that were broken. Chayiv. In this case, the owner of the kad is chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda oimer b'mischaven chayiv be'eno mischaven potter. It's totally whether they had kavana. Okay, we'll have to understand that. So says the Gemara. Omer Rabbi Yehuda Marav. So focusing, this is the name of Rav. Lo shanu. The only time that we say this din is only ella shetinfu kel b'mayim, that it got ruined. When it broke, it caused all of it to get ruined. Says Rashi, the Rab Mukil Masnisin Kishaloi Hifker as Meimov. We're talking about a situation where the owner did not make ownerless the liquid. Hilchach nimsa shenizuku kelev sholzeh b'moyne sholzeh v'havi kishoyroi. So he says it's like the din of a shore, because he says that what happened is that there's a chilik. If you are the owner of this liquid that spilled, then you still want to somehow collect it, which means it's not hefker. Therefore, you still own it, versus if it was hefker. So he says like this: Lo shanu ela shetinfu kel b'mayim. It got ruined. Says Chav Chesam and Beis. Avohu atzmo potter. However, says Avol, Rashi says Huzak hu atzmo potter. The person who fell and got injured, that person you're potter, because karka olam hizikasai. It was the ground that caused you to get injured, and that as like ownerless, or it's Rishus Harabim property. So you're not going to be responsible because a person got injured by falling on the ground. Okay. Kamrisa committed Shmuel. Amrli, he said Michdi. Avnova sekinu masoi. When it comes to the stone, the knife, the bundle, miboiro lamanu. We learn all these things of a chiyuv, of damages from bore, from the pit. The kulan ani kar behen shor v'lo adam chamor v'lo kalim. We learn out from here that when it comes to the din of bore, it says it's only if a shore falls into the pit, not a person. Only if a chamor does, v'lo kalim, and not kalim. So what do we see? We're talking about a kli over here. So if we learn out a kli from bore, so then l'chayr we should be chayiv if we're learning out from bore. So v'hani mili l'inin katala. The only time we say this is regarding death. When it comes to damages, the person who was injured is chayiv, but you're pater for the kalim. V'rav hani mili heichad yafkarinhu. The only time we say this if the liquid is hefker. If it was not hefker, then it's considered to be like your money. It's like the din of a shore. So he said, if it's hefker, you're right. It doesn't have the din of a shore, but we're talking about a situation where the maim of the liquid was he wasn't mafker the liquid that spilled, and therefore has the din of shore, which is the reason why you're high for the liquid according to Rab, but not the karka. Okay, let's look at questions. Now let's look at question 7. Nishber kadaber shusarabim. So a person's kli broke. V'huchluk echad b'mayim. Someone slipped on this liquid. B'niza gufo or shetanfo kelev. So either what happened was it caused his body to be injured, or it ruined, let's say, his shirt, his clothes got stained by the liquid. So ma din lo rab the omer bor shechayv olav tayra behifkir reshuso uborhu dechayavasai l'havaloi v'lo l'chavatoi. Okay, we almost saw this whole thing, but let's just see the answer now. So in this gufo, according to Rav, the person who was injured is going to be potter, because we said it's karka oilam hizikaso. The land damaged him. Baltin of Caleb, regarding the ruining this person's, let's say, clothes. So imlo hifgir meimav, if he did not mafker the liquid, then he's going to be chayiv, because it's like a person's property being damaged by an ox. You own an ox, you own still the liquid, because the liquid was not hefker. However, im hifgir meimav, says Dirshu, if let's say you were mafker these liquids, potter, to borhu potter al hakalim. So the liquids and the kli which damage the person, that is potter, because we say bor is potter's the kalim, and therefore that's the reason why you're going to be potter. Okay, when it comes to that, if you were mafker the liquid. All right. Okay. Let's look at question TB17. Maybe this was from before. Ma din adam v'kalim babor. I guess this is basically the same question. Let's see how I wrote this. I'm just going to pretend it was the exact same question, TV 17. So he says like this. Bor v'lo adam. Right, basically I quoted this Gemara over here. It says, Bor v'lo adam. Shor v'lo adam, really. Chamor v'lo kalim. I wrote, Kalim tala im mafker olo. V'din shor o din bor im chayiv. Okay. I guess I wasn't really sure where the question was going. So, I don't know if I got full credit for that one. Okay, let's continue. So, Meisiv Rabbi Ishia. The pasuk says, "V'nafel shama shor chamor." So, regarding the din of a boar, if let's say an ox or a donkey fell into it, so we make the following drasha: Shor, when is the Baal Habor chayiv? If an ox falls into it, v'lo adam, not if a person does. Only if a chamor falls into it, v'lo kalim, but not vessels. And again, that's only a situation, according to Rav, where you were mafker it. So mekan amru naflu soicha shor v'kelav. Let's say you have an ox that falls into a pit, but on that ox there were also kalim on it. V'nishtabru, and it broke. Chamor v'kelim v'niskaru. Same idea. You have a donkey in which if it falls into a pit it would be chayiv, but it also has kalim. So the din is chayiv al behemu pater al kalim. Halazem daima. So even though this is the same act, you're only chayiv for the animal, not for its kalim. So lamazel daima al navasakinu masoi. These different items, knife, stone, package, shenicham rishus. You just put it down in the middle of the street, vaziku, and it causes damage. Okay, so Adarab, the Gemara says the opposite. Ma daimul lazeh meboile. Elo my daimul lazeh avna v'sakinu maso shenicham rishus rabim hiziku. So like, are we comparing A to B or B to A? Okay, that's basically the whole thing. Therefore, im hetiach suchayaisa be'even chayiv. If let's say you put the pieces of the keli on the evan, then you're going to be chayiv. Reisha kasha Rav, a sefer kasha Shmuel. So the Reisha is going to be kasha according to Rav, because Rav again says that when it's something which is, if we're dealing with something which is, if you own it, so then it should be the din of shore, and therefore the question is, why would you be putter on the kalim? The seifa is a kasha Shmuel, because the seifa says that you're going to be pater ala kalim completely. So, but he says that you're not going to be pater on kalim. So, tamech tikshulachi gufa. You can ask, it in itself is a stira. Reisha pater v'sefa chayiv. The whole thing is a stira. What do you mean? The Reisha is like him. The sefer is a kasha on him. The Reisha is a kasha on him. The whole brisa is contradictory. Elo ramatar tzatame shmom tzatame. Ramatar tzatame b'medivar morim. When do we say that you're putter for the kalim kishef kiron? Only if they're hefker, because if they're hefker, you don't own them, and if you're a putter. Avaloef kiron chayiv. But if you rent mafkarit, those kalim that are on the shore, so you're going to be chayiv not only on the shore or the chamor, but also it's kalim because it has the din of like a shore that damaged. Lafika chetiach solchaisa be'evan chayiv, which is the reason why if you put a kli on the evan, you're going to be chayiv. Because again, we're talking about in a situation where you were not mafkarit. Shmuel matarza tamei hashdini amrinav nosekino maso kibaydo idami. We're saying that these things are like a boar. If you look at Rashi over here, so what was the kasha again? Rashi tani amnosekino dominant labor is a kasha rav. The salchad the field b'shloi afkri mayri. Again, we're making a difference in rav between hefker and not hefker. The same for the tani imhetiach achas cholchas be'evan. You should say your potter. Okay. So again, according to Rav, he'll just be machak between hefker or not hefker. According to Shmuel, he'll say that avna sekino masoi is kibaroi. It's the same din as the boar itself. Rabbi Yehuda the machayiv al niski kelim b'bor, when according to Rabbi Yehuda, who is machayiv niski kelim when it comes to a boar, that if a kli falls into a pit, Rabbi Yehuda holds your chayiv. So therefore, it's within the guidelines of the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. I remember Lezer. Lo shanu. The only time that we say that if you put these that you put these jugs on a stone that you're chayiv is elish sheniskal be'evan. The person tripped over the stone, v'nishoif be'evan, and then the kli ends up being broken. Says Rashi, hakli be'evan. Right, it ends up. That's how it gets broken by the stone. Of a niskal bekarka. Let's say a guy just trips over the ground. V'nisho be'evan. Then all of a sudden he lands on the stone, and then the stone breaks the kli. Potter. So in that situation, you're going to be potter. Come on, deloik Rav Nosson. That's not like Rav Nosson. Who's Rav Nosson? Says Rashi. Derma, come on. I have no idea how you're supposed to know this without Rashi. Thank goodness for this Rashi. If you have an ox that pushed its other ox into a pit, actually we had this before as well in Rashi, a little bit back, maybe 10, 20 blot ago. What's the din if the ox pushed another animal into a pit? So is the ox responsible or is the pit responsible? There's like two damages over here, two things that did damage. So according to the sheet of Rav Nosson, he says if you cannot pay from the shore, then you collect from the pit. So you collect the rest of the damages from the owner of the pit. Now, that again is assuming, let's say you only can collect half damages because it's a tom, let's say. So then you can collect the other half from the boar. And the Gemara even goes to a quarter over there, or maybe according to Rabbanan, maybe not at all. But this is not like the shita of Rav Nosson. So again, let's read this again. Because Rav Nosson says that the Baal Habor is chayev. In this case, he's saying to be potter. Don't tell me only in that case you chayev. When he trips on the ground and he breaks a kli with him by the stone, potter. No, even in that case you can be chayev. Come on. Ki Rav Nosson. Again, it'll be like Rav Nosson, that even in that situation, because you're mischavin, so therefore in that case you're going to be chayev. Adka.